Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. One of the things I want to, yes?
Did you get my email?
I got your email, and that made me think of a couple things. So if any of you guys are kind of wondering where I'm starting with this, she sent me a great email with a book attached. I don't actually distribute because I'm painfully white hat, so if anybody has some question about that, you can follow up later. But there's a couple books that I actually really recommend if you are into the book side of things. The first one is The Basics of Hacking and Penetration Testing. This one has been the one that I've been working out of the most. It gives a nice light overview of the different pieces that we've been using. The other one is a good standby, The Metasploits Penetration Tester's Guide. It's a little bit older, but this is the standard for Metasploit. Most of this is now available online at offensivesecurity.com. I'll show that to you guys at the end of the class here, so that you can follow through some of what we're doing as well. The one you talked about is Hacking, the Art of Exploitation. This is an excellent book that dives into hacking at a much deeper level than anything else. The other ones are how to use the tools. This is how to actually develop and proceed with it in a more intuitive manner. It's very, very cool, but it's much lower level than what we've been doing so far. This is things I'd like to get into eventually, but when you get started, the skinny one's probably the best one to start with. Yes.
What would be an example of like lower level?
So this one tells you how to use Metasploit, Armitage, the Meterpreter. This one actually gets into running buffer overflows, how your assembly code goes together, how to debug it, how to actually start encoding things and put together. I just opened it up here. It's art poisoning in C. So this is much more. This is a little bit more along the script kiddie side, but it gives you an overview of the process. And it's a good place to start. This one is how to go pro. So with going pro, I just made a segue. I didn't mean to. That's kind of awesome. There is a National Cybersecurity Career Fair going on June 18th and 19th, but you have to register ahead of time. If anybody's interested in that, I'm going to forward this to the email list so that you'll get included on that. But you can find more at nationalcybersecuritycareerfair.com, and they're very excited. It's followed by an exclamation point. Basically, it's trying to put you in contact with employers with cybersecurity jobs. So if you guys are interested in this stuff is amazing. It's a good deal there. And we did get to see Kurt Strauss from Microsoft Security present at Colloquium last week as well. He did a pretty good presentation. Talked to Kyle and I afterwards. He is interested in trying to put together a Capture the Flag League between the local colleges. So that may be something that we can get rolling next year, which would be very cool. So, yeah, if you have any questions about that, just talk to me afterwards and we'll try to follow up with it. So today, we are going to be talking about, well, let's put it this way. We've been working our way through this whole process. Number one, most important step is what? Get permission. Get permission. Number one, super important step. Get permission. After that, we try to find out information. We do the information gathering and recon stage. Then once we figure out what machines we're going after, we do the evaluation stage where we find out what those machines are running. And then we do the exploitation stage where we have actually taken over some level of that computer. What we're going to be talking about today is the last two steps: privilege escalation and covering your tracks, the post-exploitation process. Just because you have access to an account doesn't necessarily mean you have the full privileges of what you want to do. You may just have limited user rights. You may just be a freaking guest account. You can't install programs, you can't access data, you can't do anything. But is that going to stop us? Nothing else has so far. So there's actually two types of escalation. The first one, which is the one we normally think of, is vertical. And if anybody wants to guess what the second one's going to be?
Horizontal.
Yep, horizontal.
Sideways. Diagonal.
Yep. So first with vertical, this is where you start as a guest account and you want to rise up to become a system administrator. This is This is easily achievable, and you want to do this because you have more privilege, you have more privileges, more functionality, more things you can do. Privileges. I have been struggling to spell privileges for about a week now. I think I got it right. The way people protect from this is they try to set up accounts or applications to run with the least amount of privilege necessary. It's called the principle of least privilege. When I was reading today, I actually found something that just wanted to make me slam my head into the wall. Does anybody know what privilege level the old screensavers used to run in Windows?
Today.
Yep.
Admin.
Yes, screensavers used to run as admin level.
Oh, that's
If you could take over a screensaver, you had full control of the system. Does anybody else just feel like, oh, why?
What version of Windows was that?
It just said previous versions, and I haven't actually gone through, but I'm guessing, well, we'll see. I'm not going to make a big guess. But we like this because it's more privileges. We get to do whatever we want. And when we're talking about this, we know that there's the guest level, there's the user level, there's the admin level. The admin, big boss on the machine. Is there any level higher? Yep, there is. You're in class today too. There's the system level. Tom was talking about this in secure code, and it tied in right to what I was reading as I was going through at the time. If you can get to the system level, you supersede the admin level. I was going to talk about it briefly at the end, but you can get your rootkits to run at the system level, and a rootkit, I'll get to that at the end, but we get the rootkit to run at the system level, and we'll tell you what the problems are with that briefly at the end there. So vertical makes sense. Everybody wants vertical. We all want to be bigger, stronger, have more privileges than we do. Why in the world would we want horizontal privileges? Any guesses? What's that? We can use it for pivoting, but we can also just use it. We don't even have to think of it at the system level. Most of you guys here probably have a bank account, right? Your bank account has the same privileges, same functionality as mine does. Yours might have more money in it than mine does. I might like to,
Sidestepping.
yep, I might like to escalate myself into your bank account long enough to make sure it's as broke as my bank account. So that's where this sort of thing can kick in. This is done to a large degree web-based, more or less, based off of session IDs. When you log into a site, you are issued a session ID that's typically stored as a cookie. That cookie identifies you. So most times you'd think to log into your account, I would need your username and your password. I don't need your username and password. I need your session key. That gives me full access to everything that you are logged into because it has identified me as you. Now there's a lot of ways to get a session key, and this is called, a lot of these are variations of session stealing. Have you guys ever been to a website that is HTTPS? Was it HTTPS after you logged in? It should be. If it was HTTP at any time without using the secure socket layer, your session ID is still being transmitted in plain text. So a lot of companies used to, including Facebook, used to send this information clear text, have you log in, protected, and then send everything clear again. The problem with that is I can still steal that information that I need to log in as you with session steal. So if you do anything on any site that has you log in or use a credit card, make sure it's HTTPS all the time. Otherwise, you are very subject to session stealing. So there was a Firefox plugin called Firesheet. And it was literally as easy as installing a Firefox plugin and then sitting in a coffee shop with an open network, and you could steal everybody's credentials for everything. It was not hard to do. You can't do it anymore. They don't update it. You have to use a legacy version of Firefox if you want to. But I have installed it so you see how easy it was, and it is depressing. You open it up and your little sidebar goes, ding, here's somebody, ding, here's somebody, ding, here's somebody. Who do you want to be today? If I had multiple personalities, that would be an awesome plugin. I could be whoever I wanted that day. So, not only is session stealing a bad thing for horizontal one, there's also session fixation. And this is a variance of this. So instead of getting somebody else is session ID, session fixation has somebody else log in with your session ID or one that you specify. So if you're trying to get other information, I can't think of a good example of it right now, but basically they're able to say who you log in as. So everything you do, they're then able to monitor and do with what they want. Another horizontal one is cross-site scripting. And we'll talk about that more in depth at about, not next meeting, but the meeting after. And same thing goes with guessable passwords. You know, you got a bad password, I can figure out your password and do a horizontal escalation so that I can do whatever I want. So we can see why escalation of privileges would be kind of a neat deal, depending on if we're getting more power or just getting somebody else's power. So there's, so how do we do it? Well, before we talk about how we do it, I want to jump back a little bit and talk about payloads. So we used Meterpreter last time to establish a shell to a computer we exploited. And I think it was Josh who threw it out there. What do we want that's even better than a shell? Josh? Yep, Meterpreter. Meterpreter is amazing. We're not going to talk about Meterpreter yet. The one we're going to talk about first is called Netcat. How many of you guys have actually got to use Netcat? Just one? Okay, Netcat is very, very cool. It is a very simple network tool for reading and writing to network connections. But what this means is Netcat. This is, if you're ever trying to learn about a protocol or want to learn more about it, Netcat is the tool to use. It will give you a TCP or UDP connection to any port that you specify and give you a command line, basically a command line to it. So you guys know what HTTP looks like, right? If I was trying to set out and test an HTTP server, I could issue a GET request, HTTP 1.1, I think it is, like that, using Netcat, because I just type it in, and then I get the response. So when I was in Carol's networking class, we used this to try to figure out how to exploit some FTP servers. We're able to use it for any client, anything. This just opens up the socket and allows you to issue the commands as you would like to do it. So you can exploit any protocol, anything that you want to learn more about. Netcat is an amazing tool for doing that. So Netcat is also useful. Sometimes you guys run the Nmap scans, right?
Yep.
And they start telling you what's on which port, but sometimes it can't identify it. Netcat can step in at that point. Just log in. It's just NC with a -P for whatever port you're connecting in on. So say you have some weird thing happening at port 5000, which is a non-standard port, is Nmap's not identifying it. You can log in here, type in just gibberish, and see what it responds to. Even easier than that is just connecting here. Do you guys know about banners? Most services send out a banner on connection that says, "Hi, welcome to my server. I am FTP client XYZ. Please don't look me up in the exploit DB." So just by connecting, you may get a banner identifying it that you will then have more complete information that Nmap may have missed. This is a cool deal. Beyond using this to test protocols, learn things about it, and figure out strange programs out there, this can be used as a chat client. It can be used to probe, like we just showed here. And even stranger, you can pipe stuff through this. If you have an executable file that you're running on your machine, you can pipe it through Netcat. So it works as a client server. Once you're connected to it, anything that goes in just pops out the other side. It's a magical tube where so if you're running anything, say, oh, what's a command line program on I don't know, if you just wanted to monitor, if you're running a watch, you can pipe watch through Netcat and see what's happening on the other computer at all times. You don't have to have anything complicated connected. Netcat is just a magical pipe that will connect one machine to another. What goes in one side pops out the other, even executable programs. That's very, very cool. There are Windows versions of it, there's Linux versions of it. I believe there's something for almost every operating system with Netcat. So when it comes to Netcat or a shell, which payload would be cooler? Yeah, Netcat. Netcat is awesome because it goes way beyond just that standard shell. So Netcat sounds really cool, right? Interpreter's better. So we've talked about Netcat here. Interpreter is Netcat on steroids. Interpreter. He's giggling over there because he knows how scary this is.
laughing at
It's a hacker Swiss Army knife is what they call it. Their official definition is interpreter is an advanced, dynamically extensible payload that uses in-memory DLL injection, stagers, and is extended over the network at runtime. It communicates over the stager socket and provides a comprehensive client-side Ruby API. It features command history, tab completion, channels, and more. Basically what this does is it takes all the power of Metasploit, itty bitty living space in memory on the exploitable machine. Nobody here has watched Aladdin in a really long time.
I got it.
Okay. We got it. It wasn't that funny though. So Metasploitable is basically, the interpreter is basically Metasploitable running on the machine that you're attacking. This is very, very cool. There's a couple of, it's got a lot of functionality and we'll run through some of this, but there's some of them I just want to run through a list. When I talk about escalating privileges, hiding your tracks, everything else, this talk is probably going to be a little shorter than normal because Interpreter makes it all so easy. So we're going to tell you about it a little bit and then we're going to say, type in this and you're done. It's really depressing how easy it is. So we're hoping everybody's feeling pretty happy by the time you're done here. So you can get all sorts of information through Interpreter. You can get the system info. You can get idle time, which is kind of nice to see if anybody's actually at the computer right now, how long they've been since they've been at the computer. You can use it to upload and download files. For the record, Netcat can upload and download too. Oh, this is something I should throw out there too. Netcat runs in plain text. So if you are hacking the machine, somebody is sniffing the traffic over that network connection, they can hack your hack because it's in plain text. There is a version of Netcat called CryptCat that takes care of that. I should probably mention that. It's really embarrassing when the hacker gets hacked. All right. It gives you search functionality. It gives you a shell. It gives you screenshot. So say you've logged into a machine and the idle time says 0, and you're saying, well, what's Joe User up to? Screenshot. Oh, this is what he's doing right now. A little bit scary. If you want to take it beyond that and go, well, okay, then what's he wearing? You have your webcam snap. You can take pictures using built-in webcam. So if you weren't paranoid before, if you happen to walk around your house in pajamas or less, just stick a post-it note over your webcam because it is very easy. Just by getting an interpreter on there, they now have access.
A lot of that like webcam covers.
Yep. Oh, good. Because that would be nice. At CCDC, one of the hackers' favorite things to do is show pictures of, this is how I pwned him, and this is his face as I pwned him. On occasion, you get people who realize that's happening, so you get some nice screenshots. But this also gives you some functionality where you can list all running processes, and if you want to, you have kill functionality with your process ID. So if you see them trying to do something to stop you, you can stop them first. It can become a race. So, Interpreter is kind of scary, kind of fun, but how can we use it here? So we talked about vertical privilege escalation, right? To do that, all you need to do is once you've got the interpreter payload running, it's just like a programming language. We're going to use a module there called privilege. And what do you guys, how many commands do you guys think it's going to take to get full system control? 3? I hear 3. Okay. I feel like it's named that too. I can hack that system in 1 command. Okay, characters. How many characters? Now, it is 1 command. It says get system. And you will have full system control. There are stages to it, but get system will give you system access if your exploit supports them. Not every exploit can be exploited to the point where get system will work. If it doesn't work, what should you do?
Try another initial.
Exactly, try again. There's always other exploits out there. And to verify that you have what you think you have, get UID will get you ID. So, that's the one that gets allowed out of
Like the use notes for user.
Yes, but it is more fun to speak bad English. So this is vertical right here. Vertical. So if we want to use it for horizontal, we do another approach. When you are storing passwords, should you ever store passwords in the clear?
Oops.
I feel so sad right now. I said I'm going home and open up my metasploitable box of the internet. That's the best way to take care of myself. You should always keep your passwords encrypted. What's the function we typically use it to do that? It's called you hash your passwords, right? So everybody wants to hash their passwords. Well, password hash is a lot like a session ID that we talked about earlier. I don't need your username and password. I need your username and your password hash. Last time we were in here, we talked about the tools available like Medusa and Hydra that help you brute force a password, and Jack the Ripper that help you crack a password hash. Let's say you don't have time to wait for John the Ripper to finish that up. That's where we do something called a pass the hash attack. What that does is, using interpreter, we can, this one takes a few more characters, but we can basically run a hash dump. Okay, blah, 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 hash dump. I'm not going to write the whole thing out. I'll show you guys where to find it. Hash dump, and this will dump the hashes to your directory. You can then copy and paste that using the pass the hash attack, and instead of trying to decrypt the password, you can just send it over the wire. Why would this be handy? People reuse passwords. So if you've got admin access and you can get the hash for the admin on this machine right here, what's the password going to be on that machine for the admin? Same one, same one, same one, same one. We can get control of almost every machine because people reuse their hashes. Sorry, their passwords. And once we actually have system access, using get system or something else, we can do some cool commands. Like, does anybody know what? Anybody know what this does?
That's the user password secure.
Yeah. This adds a new user from the command line in a Windows machine. If we can get netcat access, interpreter access, any kind of access here, we don't need to steal the passwords anymore. We can just start creating our own users. They might be able to notice there's new users, but we'll talk about that in a little bit here. So, what if you guys all know NAT, right? Network Address Translation. It allows one machine to represent multiple machines on the internet. So here's the internet, giant cloud. Evil, scary people now. Scary. Okay. Oh, he looks like an orc.
Al Gore.
Oh, Al Gore invented the internet. Yes. Ever since the internet was a mere twinkle in Al Gore's eye. Started an essay like that. Now you were saying I look like an orc. One of my buddies works over at Blizzard, And how many of you guys have seen the, what's the name of the TV show with West Coast Choppers? With Paulie and nobody in here
I don't
watches
watch TV.
Motors? Okay. So, yes, so this will have no application to any of you, but they build custom motorcycles, and they've been famous on TV for quite a while. They just teamed up with,
Yeah, then we can shop it for all the world.
yep, and my buddy's actually on the TV show, the webcast with it. So it's kind of fun. I was like, hey, your voice got deep since high school. This is different. It's cool. So kind of a dream job. Work at Blizzard, I guess that'd be fun. Okay, so back to this. Network address translation allows one machine to represent multiple machines. Sometimes this is just a router or a switch. Other times it's an actual box. Well, theoretically, the internet can't see these boxes, even if he's being evil with, I should give him Sauron style eyes. But even with the eye of Sauron, he's not going to be able to see past that initial box, right? Well, if he can get an exploit on here, so say this box is now evil, we can do something called pivoting. What pivoting does is it allows you to take an exploited box and make the next hop. So say this box can pivot to this box, which means we can now get to the resources of these boxes down here. A lot of people try to do security in depth where they will separate critical functions through multiple network layers that only overlap at certain points so that it's harder for somebody to go from here to here. But with pivoting, we're able to get this guy, who can then get this guy, who can get this guy, who can get out. So, again, the commands for doing something like this isn't really hard at all. You can, if you want, get a list of the local subnets it's attached to. So if it's got multiple Ethernet cards, you can say, hey, list your network connections. And then you can add a route. Or if you're really bored or you're in a hurry, you can just do load auto route. And any connection from this machine, anytime you talk to this machine, you can just send it right through as if there was a network table to any of the machines he's connected to. So one command and you've completely pivoted and bypassed any extra security they've added by layering their networks. It's a little bit sad. So exploits typically take advantage of a particular running process with an exploit available, right? Say you exploit Internet Explorer. How long does your exploit last? How long does your session last? So a while back I worked for Microsoft Tech Support, and one of our tech guys could not stop calling it Internet Explorer. Like, we are representing Microsoft here. We could not do that, but he didn't last very long. This was a while back, but he was the only one with high levels of certification, and within 2 weeks, he had pried apart a machine with a pocket knife because, I don't know. But they just came over and they're like, why'd you do this? He goes, well, it seemed like a good idea. So, yeah, certification doesn't always mean you're top of the class. Beware of anybody who's walking around more armed than you are. So, if they close ID, they're going to close your connection, right? So we have to do something called migrating process. We want to migrate to something else. Migrate somewhere. We're going to do this by getting a list of the processes running. And then there's a run command /migrate. And we're going to specify a process ID. What would be a really safe one to get into? What's that? System 32 would be a good one. Explorer, because you can't shut down Explorer without shutting down the system. But this way, they can't really do anything to stop you. And they can't disconnect you. You might worry that they would, you might get caught by an antivirus. So we have this command, kill AV. Really hard to circumvent. Little b, sorry. I can't write lowercase. Kill AV. I should have switched to that. No, it's a little messier than I want it to be. But it's that easy to stop most antiviruses. Say, okay, well, what if you have a really good system administrator who will catch you because everything on the system gets logged, right? We have a function called clear EV, which will clear the application system and security logs on all Windows systems. So is anybody getting a little depressed reading this here?
Loving it.
So, and again, if you've migrated, you've cleared things out, you've killed off the antivirus, they can't tell you're there, you can run a keylogger. You can make life really easy for yourself and log everything that they're doing. You can also monitor all packets going in and out of the machine from the machine itself. Or instead of doing all the steps that it took to get you there to get the information, you can just grab everything with run scraper. Scraper is going to go through and grab usernames, passwords, registry, password hashes, system information, and even the HKey current user registry. This will grab everything. It's kind of sad. Jumping back from it, if you are getting your packets and you're monitoring their keyloggers, what are you probably going to get a whole bunch of? A lot more login information. What do people do? They reuse login information. So once you've got the machine, you can see if somebody's working on it, set your stuff up, monitor it, and just keep watching for any additional credentials you can get for anything else. So the user has one hope left, right? As long as he shuts down the machine, you're going to get kicked out. Does everybody think that's a good idea? Good. It's nice that there's at least one way out. Yeah, there's a way out. So there are multiple ways of doing it. There are some persistence scripts, and you can either get it so Netcat connects back to you. You can get it through so that the interpreter connects back to you. There's a lot of functionality to make any of this stuff happen, but they're basically persistence scripts, and it'll make sure that no matter what happens, they aren't getting away. You still have full access to the attack machine. So, is anybody depressed at all that there's just no way out? Okay, we got one or two hands if you haven't kind of depressed, because there's more. There is. Has anybody heard of Railgun? Railgun is not just in your first person. It's not your daddy's FPS anymore. You guys even have railguns in your FPSs anymore?
Leave online to have railguns.
Okay, good.
You're talking about
This
Quake,
is not
right?
quite like that. But what Railgun is it is a full Ruby shell with full access to the interface to allow you to interface directly with the Windows native API.
Oh dear.
Now that you have exploited the poor bastard's box, you can start popping up alert windows saying, oh, you can make their life miserable. You can execute, you can run as if you were a native app and have it do anything that you want it to do. There's a whole lot of documentation on how to use Railgun at msdn.microsoft.com. It lays out the full API of what you're allowed to access from the shell. So, oh, and one other one that I guess I skipped. This should have been much earlier because this is anticlimactic compared to everything else that we've done there. So, one of the other things that you can do with Interpreter is you can actually create a GUI. You can run git GUI, pass it a username and a password. If this command line's not your thing, you can pass a username password. It will create a new account for you that you can use for any kind of remote desktop connection. You can connect in and have absolute full control with the GUI because maybe you're just scared of the command line. Don't be scared of the command line. So we've got one last hope here, right? This stuff, even with the persistence strips loading it into the registry and the other startup areas, at least if we go looking for it, maybe we boot to safe mode, we can rip this stuff out, right? Okay, nobody's going to agree this time. All right. There are rootkits. And rootkits are a whole talk all on their own. But if we can get the rootkit running at the system level, we can use this to hide files, to hide processes. We can even get the computer to lie about disk usage. We can completely fill up their hard drive and tell them everything's okay. This deal is very scary. It's It's not as complex as it sounds like. It's so easy, Sony can do it. But did you guys hear about that a couple years ago? Sony was installing rootkits.
That was like when I was in high school.
CDs and, what's that?
That was like 7 years ago.
So I'm a little old. For me, 7 years ago was only a fifth of my life ago. So mathematically speaking.
What about rootkit destroyers?
Rootkit destroyer is, we'll use that to demonstrate rootkits when, if we get to that disorder. So, it's a lot to take in, but as you guys can see, Interpreter makes it all very, very easy. There is a crash course in how to use it with Metasploitable. If you guys Google Metasploitable and offensivesecurity.com, it will run you through all of this functionality here. It will show you examples of every one of these commands, how to use these commands, and it stays a little bit more up to date than books do. It's the power of the internet. So if you guys want to explore that today, we can do that. I didn't really set up a lab for us today because it was just a lot to take in, and getting something that was progressive with this was a little bit of a challenge. But what I was thinking is there are some pre-set up environments for being attacked. Next week, we've completed the entire pen testing process at this point. We should have a pretty good overview of the process. We'll just need to delve into more specifics of each process in the future. And if you missed a class or missed a meeting here, they're all available online, or at least they will be soon. I'm one meeting behind now. You can catch up and do this. But what I was thinking for next meeting, now we know about this stuff, let's use it. There's some pre-configured environments that we can start attacking that go at different levels. Would you guys, does that sound like something fun for the next meeting, next time around? Okay, cool. We'll go ahead and do that. I think our next meeting is supposed to be on May 3rd, but they are doing the e-tails field trip or walkthrough. They're doing the walkthrough at that company that day. So I was wondering if you guys wouldn't mind doing it the next week. I think that'd be the 10th. Does anybody have any objection there? Would that work out all right? Okay. So we'll be doing, we'll actually be straight up attacking next meeting. And if you guys want to share the word with anybody else, we'll try to get it out on the mailing list too. So people can come in and just try out their skills, see what they can do. We'll work together. We'll try to see what we can figure out. So if you guys, any questions? Anything you guys are curious about? Well, all right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close it out.